Joe Biden doesn't get it. During the biggest crisis of modern American history, he refuses to acknowledge that connecting healthcare to your employment status is a disaster in waiting, and that with 30 million people facing unemployment during the next few weeks and months, it is no time to double or triple down on this idea that you only really deserve healthcare when you have a job or when you can afford to pay for it out of pocket. And so what Bernie Sanders and what most reasonable people have been suggesting is that we need Medicare for all. And maybe that's a long-term program, but at least on an emergency basis, everyone, whether it's related to the current testing and treatment or whether it's related to any other health concern, needs to be covered by Medicare right now, because 30 million people, and probably many, many more than that, because you have to include children and spouses of people who were depending on their father or their mother's or their husband or their wife's health insurance, are now also without care. That's what you need. But Joe Biden is fixated on letting people buy Obamacare insurance with the goddamn money that they don't have. Here's what he said on Twitter today. Donald Trump needs to reopen Obamacare enrollment immediately. This is no time to put pettiness and ideology above helping those who are in the greatest need. Lives are at stake. Joe Biden is being a disingenuous hack with that tweet. I'm not going to pull any punches. Donald Trump isn't the good guy here. In no way is he the good guy. But Joe Biden damn well knows that Obamacare is wholly inefficient when it comes to representing the healthcare needs of regular people. He won't admit it because his only positive legacy was that he was Obama's vice president, and Obamacare is supposedly a positive legacy of that administration, so he will go to his grave defending it. But the deal is that with this current crisis, people don't have money. When you lose your job, Joe, I don't know if you understand this. Maybe you don't get regular Americans. When you lose your job, Joe, you don't have very much money. And so asking people who have just lost their job, maybe their spouse has lost their job as well, they're dipping into their savings, and now they don't have health or dental or whatever kind of insurance they need, you're saying the solution is for them to spend hundreds of dollars a month that they don't have on healthcare that they desperately need. That's Joe Biden's stopgap solution. Joe Biden is going to lose the goddamn election if this is his plan. Again, I noted this in previous videos, that Donald Trump is musing about basically creating an emergency/temporary Medicaid, Medicare for all program that will cover everyone. Do I believe that Donald Trump's going to do that? Not really. Do I believe that Donald Trump will blatantly lie to secure a political advantage? Of course he would. He already has. He's going to. He will continue to do so for the rest of his life. That's Donald Trump. But it doesn't change the fact that if his solution is to tell regular people that he's going to give them health care, whether they can afford it or not, because it's not their fault they don't have health care right now, and then you have Joe Biden begging Donald Trump to let people give the money they don't have for healthcare that's insufficient, he will lose. Joe Biden in this tweet is hardcore projecting. And again, I'm not defending Donald Trump, but Joe Biden says we can't let ideology cloud our need to provide the basic necessities to American people. Don't let ideology cloud your action. But that's exactly what Joe Biden is doing, because he has been ideologically opposed, even more than many of the other neoliberal Democrats, to the idea of universal single-payer healthcare. His own plan, as I've noted on this channel, would leave 10 million without insurance, and he has said he would veto any provision that included Medicare for all. He said that if this man becomes president, he will guarantee that there are at least 10 million Americans that won't have healthcare, and he will be proud to do so. And that's his ideology. And so in this moment where his approach, the approach that includes the majority of people still having private-based insurance linked to their employers, it's been exposed as woefully unequipped to deal with this sort of crisis, and he remains steadfastly loyal to it. And that's his ideology. It's the neoliberalism. It's this commitment to the idea that the public shouldn't control key assets. The public shouldn't offer key public services unless private industry can get their little piece of the pie. That's neoliberalism. It's about socializing the risk, privatizing the profit. And that's what Joe Biden's model would ultimately end up doing. So in this moment, guys, you can see what Joe Biden really is and what Bernie Sanders really is. Medicare for All, as proposed by Bernie Sanders, has been utterly vindicated as the system that can work in this crisis and that should remain after it. Whereas Joe Biden, despite all the evidence, despite all the facts, despite all the logic and mathematics and statistics that face him right in his eyes, he can see it, he can taste it, he can smell it, that 30 million and more are losing their health care and they don't have money to buy health care on the Obamacare exchanges that provide crappy care at the best of times. And yet he stays loyal to it because here's the thing. Joe Biden would rather dozens, if not hundreds of millions of Americans go without the health care they need than ensure that every American has health care via a universal public model, because his ideology is more important than your goddamn life. Never think that Joe Biden gives one damn about you. He gives a damn about his neoliberal ideology and the profits of his corporate friends, the profits and power and privilege and connections of the rich and wealthy and well-connected. Because if any person, especially somebody who purports to be a progressive, purports to represent the Democratic Party, sees what's happening and isn't immediately and unequivocally calling for at least an emergency Medicare for all, he doesn't give a damn about you or anyone like you.